So many love songs are just over the top, exaggerated. Like for you, I'd swim the deepest ocean and climb the highest mountain and walk over hot coals and stuff like that. It's really unrealistic. I thought what the world really needs is a realistic love song. So I wrote one and it goes like this. Let's see. Just because I'm not the romantic type, my heart isn't made of stone. I've got feelings too, let me confess them to you. For you, I'd get up and pour a drink. For you, I'd bring our dishes to the sink. And if you're sad and blue, 'cause plans fell through, I'm there for you. If I'm not out with someone else, for you, I would scrape the toast that burned. For you, I'd gladly spend the dough we earned. And if you'd say that you'd be mine, then I'd drop by from time to time for you, darling, for you. And to be where you are, I drive my car, if it's not too far, and I'm not out with someone else, for you, I would cross a busy street. That's pretty dangerous in Los Angeles, You, I give up my favorite seat, the really comfortable one. And if you'd say that you'd be mine, then I'd drop by from time to time for you, darling, for you, for you.
Well, that was a great performance of For You, an original song by the great Fred Sokolow, who is one of the world's greatest guitar players and an educator and a longtime collaborator of mine. Thank you for coming, Fred.
Oh, my pleasure.
So let's talk about some of your musical experiences first. You are one of the few who got to know the legendary Bobby Gentry, who's been a recluse for 3 or 4 decades. Tell us, and she did Ode to Billy Joe and Fancy and many others. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, she seemed like a really smart person. When I was working with her, she had just gotten married to Jim Stafford, and they combined their acts. So we were playing the big casinos in Vegas and Tahoe and stuff like that. And she pretty much kept to herself, except with the last night that we played at one of these casinos, we had been getting together after the show to jam with Jim Stafford, the musicians. And she finally joined us one night and just did a little song swapping and stuff like that, and a little bit of storytelling. She was really cool. And it was really a thrill to be playing Ode to Billy Joe there. I was putting little spooky electric guitar noises behind it, the song and stuff.
She was a good performer?
Oh, yeah, a real pro, amazing.
Tom Paxton, who's he? And I believe you've done a lot of work with him.
Tom Paxton is a folk singer out of the Washington Square scene of the early 60s, one of the first singer-songwriters that have really successful songs. He did that song, The Last Thing on My Mind, which about hundreds of people have covered. I had listened to his music since I was like a pre-teenager, and so it was a real thrill to work with him. And wonderful guy and great songwriter. And usually we did shows just the two of us, sometimes my kid would join when he was about 12 or 13. He would come up and play too. But I was playing, I was playing dobro and the banjo and mandolin with him. And, the audiences loved him because he just has a great personality, and, he's very progressive politically, and he gets audiences who love that and stuff. So, yeah, it was just a thrill one time. But one of the earliest gigs I did with him, we were leaving the stage. We had done an encore, and he turns to me, he says, "That may be the best show I ever did." It's like, on the other hand, one time we were in a little theater in Vegas, and to get from the green room to the stage, we had to pass through the kitchen and then all this. As we were going, I passed these garbage cans, that reeked. He says to me, "This is why we do this, for the glamour."
Jerry Garcia, didn't you work with him?
I just did. I knew Garcia because we had a lot of friends in common, and everybody in the bluegrass scene knows each other in any given city. And up in the Bay Area, when I first got to the Bay Area, my cousin in Palo Alto was taking guitar lessons from Jerry. Anyway, the only time I ever got to actually make music with him on stage was at some little joint in Berkeley where he had a bluegrass band, and some friends of mine were in his band, and I got invited to join. I was playing dobro, and he was playing banjo, and we did a little duet, just the two of us on one song. It was cool. It was nice.
You play with the Limelighters.
Yeah, the Limelighters, that was cool because once again, they were somebody that in my first musical performances, I was in bands in junior high school, and we were imitating the Limelighters and the Kingston Trio and those groups. So we did a whole month in Israel, which was a really amazing tour. And, other than that, we played all over the States and in Canada, and getting to know Lou Gottlieb was interesting. He was great, wonderful guy. He was one of the few guys of the beatnik era that made it into the hippie era.
Okay. I know you had an interesting experience at a Love-In.
Oh.
What was that?
Oh, yeah, my hippie rock band in the late 60s, we lived in Berkeley and performed mostly in the Bay Area, but I had this opportunity to play at a Love-In for free in LA and possibly be seen by a bunch of big shots in the music business. So, we threw the I Ching and told us not to go. It said, "Do not cross the Great Water." But we went anyway, and it was a disaster. Before we unloaded the truck, the police started towing it away. And when I tried to get them to stop, they arrested me, and I wound up in jail. And with John Carpenter, by the way, who was the main guy at the gig there. And he says, if we get out in time, and I'm going to get on my radio show on KRLA, and you can play some of your records since you never got to perform. So that happened. But then on the way back up home, the truck totally broke down. We got stuck in Santa Barbara.
The vagaries. And I should mention that you and I have been collaborating for 30 years.
Something like that.
Making music with each other and playing in my band. Let's talk about your work as an educator. How many books have you written and videos?
If you count the books and videos all together, almost 200, And I always taught individually. Even when I was in college, I had students, private students, But I didn't have any plans to be the music book guy, It just sort of happened. I was in the early 70s. I had tons of banjo students because that Deliverance movie had come out, with the dueling banjos thing in it. And it just occurred to me that there was a fairly recent development in banjo picking that nobody had done a book about. So I thought, hey, I could do that. So I did a book. I connected it eventually with a major publisher, Hanson Music. And about a year later, I got a call from Almo Music, which was A&M Records, fairly new but very successful music publication company. And the guy says, can you do a book of transcriptions of Wes Montgomery tunes? He's probably the most advanced jazz guitar player we've ever had. And I said, I'd love to do that. I'm a big fan of Wes, but how did you get my name? He says, well, we got it from Hanson. I said, yeah, but he did a bluegrass banjo book for hand, so why would he even think of me? And, probably no other banjo player in the world could do that, I just happened to have a very varied, I had a bunch of styles that I played. So he says, they told me you were a steady Eddie. So I started doing books for Almo, and that's when I met Ronnie Schiff. And she hooked me up with all the other publishers, became sort of my literary agent. Within a year or two, I had books for, Mel Bay and Carl Fisher and the Warner Brothers, all of them. So that was really successful.
And the styles are what?
Well, I started out playing like folky type stuff on guitar, and then when the Kingston Trio and those groups happened, I acquired a banjo. I learned how to play banjo from the Pete Seeger book, and I got into. I started learning about the finger picking and blues guitar players, and then I got into bluegrass on the banjo because it was just amazing sounding to me. And then I started learning teaching myself the other bluegrass instruments. But I wound up, like most of the folk players, at a certain point we all went electric. And so I got my electric guitar. I studied the people I'd grown up hearing, like Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly and stuff like that. So, and eventually I also started learning jazz just by copying some of the jazz guitarists. So I was blessed with a really good ear. So whenever I heard a kind of music that I liked, I would listen to the records, try to play along with them and try to figure out what they were doing. And so, yeah, I wound up playing in all kinds of bands, rock bands, bluegrass bands, R&B, soul bands.
What do you have in terms of advice for people who are learning to play a musical instrument?
Well, start with something really easy, and because a lot of people want to start learning the guitar by learning a Jimi Hendrix solo, But you start with something really easy and find a teacher that will work with you in the kind of music you like. A lot of teachers have an agenda. First you have to learn this. You have to learn how to read. You have to learn theory or whatever. But you want to find somebody that will encourage you and help you with the kind of music you like,
Many musicians fear theory. How do you help students understand it in a fun and useful way?
I think I'm exceptionally good at teaching music theory because I never learned it in school. I had to teach myself music theory, and which a lot of ear musicians do. But I teach it in a very practical way by applying it to songs that people already know. And teach some. I present some idea, and then present it musically, and that way people can understand it.
You were teaching ukulele. I mean, ukulele has exploded, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
How do you explain what's going on in the ukulele world? And I know you're a big shot there.
Yeah. Well, there about 3 or 4 things happened about 15 or 20 years ago. One of that made that ukulele explode like it did. One was this Hawaiian kid, Jake Shimabukuro, who he did this version of While My Guitar Gently Weeps on the uke that just blows your mind. You look at it and you go, I had no idea the ukulele could do that, And then there was that guy, Izzy, the large Hawaiian guy who did Over the Rainbow.
Right.
That got huge attention of people. And my friend Jim Beloff. Jim Beloff was doing books and concerts and stuff on uke before it happened. He was one of the 3 or 4 things that really made the uke happen. He really got me into the uke orbit. He was doing these shows at McCabe's, a famous guitar store in Santa Monica, called Uketopias, where he would invite 3 or 4 uke players, each one would do 3 or 4 tunes, and he had me back him up on guitar. But he said he gave me his baritone uke, and he said, I want you to play 3 tunes on the baritone uke. And then we collaborated on a book together about uke that was very successful. So then I was able to start teaching and performing at the uke festivals all over the country and actually all over the world. And, the uke people recognized me because of that book. And we went to Ireland and Scotland and England and all over the U.S. Doing the performing and teaching.
I take it you do private lessons. People come
Yeah,
to
still,
you.
yeah. And by Zoom and in person, too.
For someone picking up an instrument at 50 years plus, do you have any thoughts, advice?
Yeah, well, the thing I said before about trying to do something that's really easy, and go with that, and also that having a teacher. You can get stuff on the web, and there's all kinds of tutoring, and some of that is helpful, but people learn stuff by rote that way. They don't really learn the background of it. Also, do whatever you can to get in a position where you can play with other people. Find a community of people that like the kind of music you like and start playing with them, even if you're just doing the most rudimentary stuff. Because when you play with other people, well, for one thing, playing music with other people is one of the great joys of life, along with eating and stuff like that. but you learn a lot by playing with other people, and it's a lot of fun. But you learn what you don't know. You learn, oh gosh, I don't know that chord they told me to play, or that rhythm that they're playing. I don't know how to do that. You learn what you need to know.
Are there any trends you've seen in music education over the last decade or two?
No, the only thing that's really new is the internet, and people learning off the internet. And like I said, there's tons of instructional videos about everything, besides music. I learned how to trim my chicken's feathers on a YouTube video, and that was successful. But like I said, you can learn a lot of stuff that way, and that's the positive thing, is that you can learn a lot from YouTube videos, instructional videos. But you need to really understand, to really learn music, it's best to go back to the roots of it. Like if you want to learn, well, for example, if you want to learn what the Beatles or the Stones did, you've got to learn to listen to the stuff that they listened to, that they learned from. When I tried to figure out what Keith Richards was doing on the guitar, it was real easy, or Buddy Holly or Chuck Berry. It was easy for me because I had studied the kind of styles of music and techniques that came before that they learned. So I could see where they were coming from. I could almost, read their minds in a way.
Who are your musical heroes?
There's a lot of them. Oh gosh. Well, all those early guys like Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry, and the Beatles and all them, but also Django Reinhardt, Cliff Edwards, the ukulele guy. Earl Scruggs is a major one on banjo. My office at home is decorated with all my heroes. This Roy Rogers, the Sons of the Pioneers, the cowboy guys. That's how I originally started actually playing music. I was a little kid with a cowboy outfit, and I needed a guitar to complete it.
All right, everybody, that was just a fantastic interaction I was able to have with the great Fred Sokolow. It would be very nice if you would like this episode and become a follower and comment on it as well. And thank you so much, Fred.
Glad to be here.